Foreseeing humans as pesky vermin to wipe off the map, aliens sure seem to care a lot about destroying our most precious landmarks on our favorite holidays. This is a scenario that played out in the movie Independence Day. But past all the explosions, cheese, and grandiose 90s American hell yeah redneck kamikaze into a spaceship glory of the original film lies a terrifying scenario of an unstoppable force that wiped out pretty much every major city on the planet. If you were an average bystander, the events of the first movie were less about heroic fighter battles and more like this. So what would be the actual ramifications of this massive alien attack? What if the scenario laid out in the Independence Day movie happened in an alternate timeline? Aliens attack. Aliens blow up. Spoiler, you had 20 years to watch it. What does this alternate 21st century look like? Well, here's one scenario. If you clicked on this video, I'm assuming you've watched or at least familiar with the plot of Independence Day. Long story short, in 1996, aliens, as in these type of aliens, show up in massive city-sized spacecraft over major world cities, and destroy them all with superweapon lasers. I'm pretty bummed, but hearing that damn inspirational speech, the world unites on the 4th of July with America to take out the aliens. Bright prosperous future. End movie. Now, according to the official website, the studio timeline details the events following the attack. World cities are rebuilt within a few years. Humanity unites for a single goal, and alien technology is adopted within 15 years or so. Now it's great XCOM shows up, but it isn't the most entirely realistic scenario. In this alternate timeline, you may not see these ever. According to Roland Emmerich in interviews in the official prequel book, 3 billion people died in the War of 1996. In 1990, the global population was around 5 billion. So 3/5 of that died in around 2 days. According to the official website, over 108 cities across the globe were annihilated in those 2 days as well. 500 million people immediately killed in that first wave alone. With a worst case scenario, if nobody even evacuated any city and just stood in place, only 1 billion people would die across the world. So what does this mean? Well, we could have a case of Hollywood just throwing logic to the wind, using numbers without research. Or the aliens killed 2 billion more people off-screen in the first movie. How did they do this? I don't know. Ships maybe? Pew-pewing everything? The feeling after the war is less like Victory Day in Europe, and more brief sense of relief knowing you survived, but also staring at the ruins of your home after a tornado killed everyone you love. I know. Dark. Since the aliens focused on large urban sprawls, the majority of people killed are in North America, Europe, and East Asia, including India and Indonesia. North America has a population of roughly 500 million people, Europe 742 million, East Asia has 1.5 billion. So to reach around 3 billion, we'd need a decent chunk of each region's populace to go too. History is filled with examples of how population loss transformed societies. The Black Death helped an overpopulated Europe and allowed for social advancement. Smallpox absolutely destroyed the pre-Columbian civilizations. Instead, this time of Native Americans being wiped out, it would be the most industrialized nations. People are a pretty important resource. They provide labor, buy goods, farm food, and pay taxes. Good job, people. So losing them is very devastating. Keep in mind, many of the cities destroyed in the first wave were capitals, centers of the government, heads of state. Bureaucracies are already hell in an emergency alone. Now imagine if every single one blew up at the same time. Line of succession, authority, control over the populace, all go into disarray as each major country loses their heads. After the war and victory, this is the problem right off the bat. What is left of the national governments, if there is any left, have to deal with an assorted mess of issues, including the largest humanitarian disaster in history. Millions across the world are wounded, sick, and orphaned. Millions of citizens need immediate service. Just this simple rebuilding disaster in itself would require Marshall Plan level efforts, but this time there isn't an eagle in the sky to save anyone, as the eagle just got shot down by aliens. By destroying these cities like LA and New York, you aren't just killing a lot of people and blowing up monuments in the coolest way possible, you're wiping out centers of economy, ports for trade, heads of global companies, and centers for the transportation of goods. Supplies still could be transported across the US, but it's much more difficult, especially as global trade has most likely come to a halt. Why? The fact 3 billion people died. With 3 billion less people, that means you no longer have enough workers to properly sustain society. At best, everything comes down to a standstill. At worst, complete collapse. Global trade, if it is even existent, would be minuscule compared to pre-1996. As seen lately, just one change to the economic balance of the world has catastrophic repercussions. In this alternate timeline, an alien attack just destroys the global economy. It never can recover. Western society of pre-1996 comes to a screeching halt. The dollar, euro, peso, every currency collapses. Everything is about immediate survival. In a realistic scenario, humanity is less united than ever before. World War II and globalization crafted a world where we are more united than any time in human history. An alien attack removes all of this. Survivors, left unaffected by the destruction, still need to sustain themselves. Intellectuals and politicians would be planning for the next invasion, using whichever resources they have, but the main problems are economic uncertainty, instability, and refugees. Civilization isn't destroyed, it's just smaller, less complex. The United States still exists, in theory, but in reality it'd be controlled by states, largely trading with one another. In cities across the globe, urban riots occur over the lack of supplies. Some people are simply shot down by police and military forces left standing after the war. In this alternate timeline, no cities are simply rebuilt. No country would have the capacity to take such an undertaking in cleaning it up. Instead, they just move capitals to other cities. While in the movie, the president is able to make it out alive, Congress, the Supreme Court, and every federal department did not. The United States would have a tough time voting back in a new government, and even then, it would never truly be like it once was. In the official lore, humanity easily rebuilds after a few years, keeping the same nations and even progressing in technology. In this alternate timeline, after the war, no country remained stable. Some, however, remain more stable than others. Those left pretty much unaffected are South America, Africa, and Oceania. So in this alternate timeline, after the Great Speech and hacking Hillary's servers on the mothership, what is one possibility that humanity could truly be like after an alien invasion? Lesser, more divided, but not like the Road or Walking Dead. At best, life simply stagnates, and rural people make the more out of less. But for the rest of the urban world, anarchy and unrest are prominent in the following years. The UK, France, and Germany all lost 4 of their most important cities. If your lifestyle depended on global trade and the existence of a prosperous market, then you're in for a bad time. Humanity didn't go extinct, which is great, but it faces an alternate, convoluted 21st century. If you are hoping for a world of adopted alien technology and moon bases, well, I'm sorry. You don't go from half the species dying to spacecraft in just a few years. This doesn't mean the aliens aren't important. Every human on Earth would be deeply and personally affected by the attacks. The attacks forever leave a mark on humanity, comparative to World War II with the Russians. And while people wish to come together to ward off future attacks, personal interests and conflicts simply don't allow it. It'd be a useless fight anyway. Well, if the aliens did return like in the sequel, the world simply ends. Humanity doesn't have future weapons to fight back. It has picket signs, hunger lines, and local produce farm 10 miles down the street because gasoline is practically non-existent. Aliens simply destroy the remaining 2 billion humans and colonize the world. This is simply one scenario. There is no true way to know what would have happened had something gone differently. This is Aliens, by the way. But it's fun to theorize. What do you think would have happened had aliens truly attacked during Independence Day? Say in the comments. Like on Facebook and subscribe if you have not done so. This is Cody of Alternate History Hub. So you really don't like this alternate world? Too depressing. I understand. Well, in the new Independence Day sequel, humanity has a fighting chance as they have adopted alien tech, and you can control them in the new mobile game Independence Day Extinction as humans and aliens duke it out. Want to find out more? Click on the link in the description below or right here.